Everyone, and welcome to Let's Get Visible, a podcast for business owners helping them to grow, have a sustainable business, and get more visibility online. I'm Dawes Brown, and I'll be bringing you SEO and digital marketing tips, as well as interviews and conversations with other business owners. So, let's get started. So today we have a previous guest of the podcast joining us, and I'm so excited to reconnect after a couple of years. So Monica O'Brien is the founder of Creative Edge Coaching, helping emerging artists, professional creatives, coaches, healers, and small business innovators to thrive in their career and business by transforming blocks and obstacles into powerful resources for growth using meta coaching, the integrative Enneagram, and generative change practices. She works with an incredibly varied cross-section of people, from professional creatives who utilize their artistic talents and unique way of thinking in their career or business, to imaginative individuals who enjoy their creative expressions as a deep source of personal connection and fulfillment. So again, welcome back, Mon.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks so much for saying yes and coming back to the Let's Get Visible podcast. So for those who did not get a chance to listen to our previous episode and interview together, can you just tell us a little bit more about your business and also how it started?
Oh, gosh, it was a long time ago. So it started a number of decades ago. I was actually working as a publisher, which I still am doing. And a lot of my composers were, putting it politely or not so politely, they were not terribly good at business. They called themselves pretty hopeless. So promoting, a lot of creatives have a lot of challenges in promoting themselves and doing the business side of their business. They're great in the room, they're great in the studio or on the performance stage or whatever, but not so good in following through with marketing, with sales, with press kits, media kits, goodness knows. So in my publishing business, I realized that I could potentially offer some support there. So I went and did my first coaching course many years ago. And I started thinking I was going to actually be a life coach, whatever that was, 20 or 30 years ago. I was sort of one of the pioneers. So I'm sort of an oldie that I think someone referred to me as a senior coach. Okay, I'll take that on. So anyway, I did the course and started to get all these people that wanted business coaching. So I sort of, I guess, changed and started to work in the business area in a very sort of mild way, to put it, I suppose. And then some years later, I started to get very interested in the transformational work. And so I did meta coaching, and then I did somatic stuff. I did the integrative Enneagram, which you mentioned, and more recently got involved in generative change work and generative trance. And I've sort of swung back round to some of that. I'm super interested in the Enneagram. I think it's an incredible tool for personal development and even professional insight. So yeah, my career has been fabulous. I love the people I work with. I love the work I do. And I guess I'm at that time in my own sort of evolution or age where it's I can sort of bring hopefully some wisdom that I may not have had when I was in my 20s or 30s.
Yeah, absolutely. And since your last visit, how would you say the landscape for creatives has evolved? And what new strategies have you been advising your clients to adopt through the different methods that you use to work with them?
Look, I think from my own perspective, I used to be very goal oriented.
Okay.
And I think my coaching has evolved as the landscape has evolved. One of the really big kickers for creators, of course, was COVID.
Yeah.
So performing artists, nothing for like 2 years. And it's really taken a long time to anyone in the performing arts area, it's taking a long time to actually regenerate that whole industry. Visual artists did pretty well during COVID because they were at home in their garages or in their studios, and they were potting and they were creating masterpieces in their artworks and expanding and getting online and, doing a whole lot of stuff that they actually normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing about creatives now is it's fairly constant, whether we're talking 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or now. The big challenge for creatives is to be able to put themselves out there.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of reasons why that's a challenge for them. Like performing artists are really interesting to me. They get on the stage and they're in their zone and they just do their thing and you think, oh wow, they're incredible. But a lot of them are actually introverted. So
Right.
they when it comes to promoting themselves independent of an agency or a company or whatever that they're working for, that's a real challenge for them.
Right. And what do you think causes some of those blocks, as you were saying, because they're on the stage? We tend to think that they're extroverts because they're able to present and
Exactly.
sing and perform and do all the things. But what do you think, through working with your clients, really
Mm.
causes those blocks and
I
holds them
think
back?
there is this is a generalization,
Of
but
course. Yeah.
I think that a lot of people in the creative space are really quite deep people
Yeah.
and they have a rich emotional world. And
Mm.
so when they get rejected, when they want to move to being really masters and perfectionists at what they do, because I think any artist wants to be that. They don't want to do a second-rate painting. They don't want to do a second-rate concert. They don't want to be under par in terms of their acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's I call it the creative soul. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think there is a creative soul. I think there's something that operates in a creative person who's very in touch with their creativity. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually happen for a lot of us.
Yeah.
I think they bring a different essence to their work. And I think part of the challenge for creative is that, you know, often work is transactional.
Yeah.
Usually, I do a certain job and I get paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
With an artist, I'm putting my soul on the line. I'm putting my essence out here. I'm putting something deeply meaningful to me out there. And then they sort of, I think, struggle to say that, to measure that value.
Yeah.
So to say is how valuable is that? And then, of course, if they're a one on the Enneagram, which is the perfectionist, who actually suffer a lot from the interior critic or the inner critic, they live their life constantly not being enough.
Right.
Twos are the helpers, and twos are the people that are very externally referent and they need to process things by speaking and stuff like that. They actually often give away their power.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's so many different aspects of the creative personality that I could talk a lot about the Enneagram, but this is not the forum for it necessarily. But yeah, I think there's a whole lot of reasons why a creative does struggle in that space, but I do think it's because of their creative soul.
Yeah. And you mentioned meta coaching as well. So, just for the listeners that are
Mm.
tuning in, that's got nothing to do with Facebook Meta, right?
No, it doesn't.
No.
Good point.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, it's a methodology. It's a methodology of coaching that just trying to think who the person was that sort of got it kicked off, but it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
But it's been going for a number of years, probably 20 years, and
Wow.
it's sort of looking at meaning, how meaning drives our performance. That's at the heart of the work of meta
Mhm.
coaching, and 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 diving deep underneath to find out, where's the meaning, what's the meaning behind an action, a behavior, a thought, a feeling, etc. So that's
Mhm.
very basic. But
And what they're doing. And
yeah,
you also mentioned generative trance or
yes,
change, yeah,
yeah,
practices. So, what does
yeah.
that entail
So
and include?
it's generative means something that's never happened before. Of course,
Right.
it's about newness.
Yep.
So when we're talking about transformative coaching work,
Mhm.
say someone comes and they want to change careers.
Yeah.
A lot of people are in transition or they're moving from paid employment to freelance work or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a bridge there that needs to be, crossed.
Mhm.
And so with generative work, we're looking for what is the transformation in myself that will facilitate that transition. So generative work looks at a whole range of, I guess, they're practices, I suppose, that enable that to happen. So I set an intention. So
Mhm.
the intention is to have a change of employment, then I set my state. So what's my best state to actually look at this whole desire of mine to change my career? So that's the generative state. And our generative state is our best self. What's my best self to actually do this? And we do work to look at that. And then what do I need to do? What are the steps? What are the action steps that I need to take? And then what often happens, and pretty much always happens, is I get obstacles or I get blocks that come up. Oh yes, but if I do such and such, that so internally I get these things that raise up in me that sort of say, oh, I'm going to get this could be too hard, or what ifs, I suppose.
Yes.
And so with generative work, we say welcome. We'll just welcome those blocks and those obstacles, because a lot of coaching will say, oh, let's punch them out, let's go under them or over them or get rid of them or put them aside or reframe it or all this jazz.
Yeah.
In generative work, we welcome those obstacles, because those obstacles actually have truth in them. So something is either waking up in us when we get an obstacle, or something is being healed. And so we look at those obstacles, we celebrate the obstacles, in other words, rather than thinking that they're the boogeyman or whatever. And then, of course, the whole maintenance of that process of setting the intention, revisiting the intention, revisiting the goals, making sure our generative state, meaning the state to be our best self, to bring about newness, happens through the work. It's a beautiful process.
That's amazing, because many of us, I think, would just sit there and then just try and jump in without a parachute, glide off the edge of a cliff, wonder why we've crashed down, because we haven't done any of that work to really set us up for success.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should say that. So true. The intention is really important. And this is when, as a young coach, and I know a lot of coaches I work with, they because they're trying to get something for their clients, like the client may say, I want to change career. So the coach is focused on, okay, what do you need to do?
Yeah.
And so now I used to do it, but I actually don't do that anymore. I say, okay, what do you want to create in your life? That's the key generative question. What do you want to create in your life? Not what do you want to do? And so now they might say, well, look, I want to create a loving environment in my family. I want to create a fulfilling and meaningful work. I want to create whatever. So now that takes on a whole new dimension. So now something that might be, oh, I'll go and work for an art gallery, or I'll start my own studio, has a totally different approach, because now I'm saying, what do I want to create in my life? What do I really want to create in my life?
And through that, it's very illuminating. And I think it would highlight for some people, maybe I thought that was the bridge I wanted to cross.
Exactly.
But now that I've been able to dig a little bit deeper, I've realized that maybe this isn't the pathway for me. And there's no such thing, I think, as right or wrong. You just have to do the thing, and sometimes you find through that process whether it's something you want to continue to do or it's something that you don't. But I would imagine that illuminating process would also highlight, well, I thought that's the path that I wanted to go, but maybe actually it's
absolutely.
it's over here.
It was interesting. I had a client a little while back, and it was a work transition thing. In fact, she said, oh, I've got imposter syndrome. And I said, oh, what's that? And she said, oh, well, she explained what she thought, I'm comparing myself to others, and I feel a bit of a fraud. Now, this person has had a lot of experience in the area that she's working in.
Yeah.
So she came with an intention of improving her work environment. That was her outcome.
Yeah.
And intuitively, I felt there's something by about the second session that I thought it's just not quite, I don't know, something didn't drop for me.
Yeah.
And I said, I get this sense that there's something more. And she just stopped and started crying. And it turns out that she actually was started a relationship with someone, and she's already in one. And so she's having what we call the affair. And so the whole coaching just changed.
Yeah.
But this was impacting her work. Now, if she hadn't stopped, if she wasn't able to listen with her ears potentially, but her body knew.
Yes.
And so this is the generative process as well. It's a body, mind, spirit, and emotion connection. And often we just work with the mind,
Mm-hmm.
shoulds, and I should do this, and I think this, and blah, 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 where really her body, the tears, just gave her the entry point
Yeah.
to be able to say, I'm in love with someone, and it's
Yeah.
not my partner.
Yeah.
You know, it's all new and lovely and whatever.
Yeah.
But so it actually had nothing to do in one sense with career, but this
Yeah.
unease in her caused her to, you know, to be unsettled at work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think once we stop and we can really think about and reflect and be intentional,
Mm-hmm.
then all sorts of amazing generative things happen in that space.
Yeah. Wow.
Hmm.
And just reflecting on your experience as well, since obviously we've last spoken,
Hmm.
when you are working with creatives, is there anything that they're doing on a recurring basis? Don't know if you want to use the word again, mistakes, because I don't think there's right or wrong, but is there anything in particular that you see them doing over and over again? And what do you think they could be doing better in order to navigate some of the challenges that they're experiencing?
I think a lot of creatives beat themselves up way too much. So
Yeah,
it's not necessarily an action of something
yeah,
that they're doing or not doing. But again, it comes back to this need, I think a lot of people, not just creatives, are not at home. They haven't come home. They've got bits and bobs all out here doing
yeah,
things that they think they should do. Lots of shoulding, should do this, should do this, should do this. And in actual fact, it's not what they really feel called to. It's not vocational. It doesn't have a lot of meaning to them.
yeah.
So lots of balls are dropped in that process.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, and then that creates that cycle of beating themselves up. So I guess the one thing for everyone, self included, is to be mindful, to be present, to have time alone, to really be reflective, to be contemplative in the way that we live. And I'm not talking about necessarily doing meditation or yoga practices or praying
No,
or any of that stuff, but all of that facilitates that. So it
yeah,
may simply be just spend some time by yourself each day to just be, you know, and see what comes up for us. So yeah, it's not a mistake, but it's something that I feel in my work I notice all the time. So that's the spiritual side of things,
yeah.
the religious, but the spiritual side of the work. And because creatives, you know, draw deeply
Mm-hmm.
from their internal world to create their magic and their wonder and their beautiful things, that's so critical to me, to encourage them to come home to themselves.
Yeah,
Parts of them are all over the place, so let's just bring those parts home.
together. And it can be quite a confronting and difficult thing to be able to sit with yourself
Oh, I
alone and have,
definitely.
yeah, those types of thoughts, conversations. As you said, using, things like meditation and yoga or praying, whatever is the
Absolutely.
right thing for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's quite a journey just to get to that point where you're okay with
Yes.
being in your own
Mm.
space. And one of the other things you mentioned in the work that you do as well is around business coaching and really helping creatives with their visibility too. So, what things they could be doing in order to really get their message out there. So, what are some of the things that you do to work with your clients around that?
Yeah, it's interesting, Dawes. You and I have worked together with the SEO thing, and like I'm a
Yes.
complete and utter convert. You know, social media worked 10 years ago or longer. It was something that, you know, people got a lot of success out of social media. And I think
Yeah.
social media has its place. Like, I think it's a calling card, to be honest. I think it's a brochure.
Yes.
It's a place where people stalk you to see if you actually, you know,
Pretty
to
much.
see if you're real,
Yeah.
or to see if you exist. And you know, if you've got 2 or 3 posts a week, then that's enough in my book these days,
There's a
because
heartbeat
it's,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I do, you know, like I did say, I'm a convert. I think if someone has a presence in a website, or a blog posting or a vlog or whatever, I do really believe that's one thing that I do push in business coaching, to
Mhm.
make sure that they set SEO up, because to me that's my main source of contact. And it does take a while to grow it, for sure.
Yes.
You know, it's a long tail.
Yep.
You know, it's not going to give instant success if you throw a few $1,000s at a Facebook ad, which I've done, by the way, in the past. I think we've all gone down that pathway. You know, unless you have something that's just you know, a lot of people really, really want it, like a new fridge or, you know, new carpet or, you know, a new car or some sort
Or
of
eclipse
real thing.
glasses, apparently they went off. Wish
They
I
would
had
have
a
gone
thought
off.
about
They
that.
totally would have gone off. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know, unless it's a really tangible thing, I think it's very, very difficult to harness social media, paid ads without a big budget.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I think for most of us, most of certainly creatives, they would be really struggling to go down that pathway. So
Yeah.
yeah, look, I think things that I think a plan is important,
Hmm.
but a flexible one. And it comes back to
Yes.
that question, what do I really want to create? And so, you know, if a creative wants to create a following, you know, an
Hmm.
audience, then certainly there's certain things that we would put into place. Like, for example, I've got a woman at the moment who is a dancer and a choreographer,
Yep.
and her intention is to move from on face-to-face work to
Hmm.
bring courses into an online space. And
Nice.
she knows, and I know that can be challenging because
Yeah.
yes, I can help and a lot of people can help, and she would have a lot of input to the creation of the actual content. That's
Hmm.
the easy part in my book.
That's it.
And that's the easy bit. But getting it out there, meeting
Hmm.
the right audience, promoting it, that's the challenging part. And it's not one size fits all anymore. It's
No.
making sure you talk to someone at the bus stop. It's dropping some flyers into your local coffee shop. It's you know,
Yeah.
it's networking with other like-minded people. It's, you know, becoming parts of associations. It's so many things now.
Yes, absolutely. And do you think, sort of moving forward with that, are there any trends or technologies that you believe are particularly impactful and helpful for those in the creative space?
Well, of course, AI has got a lot of discussion in the creative space. Like people
Yeah,
are freaking out about it, to be honest.
yeah,
I actually, I actually just written a blog. I think I've posted it about the use of AI in creatives and not to be afraid of it. I mean, it is here. You
yeah.
know, it's here. It's going to be part of now and the future. So I think that's an area that creators need to or could educate themselves on and really benefit from. And I don't mean from necessarily creating content with it, but outlines and lists and getting ideas. And I mean, I use it in that way and I find it fantastic.
Yeah, it's
So
brilliant.
to create outlines of great, or give me 20 topics on what would really appeal to a creative. Think outside the box, be different. Don't give me the stock standard stuff. You know, I mean, it's so funny with AI. A friend of mine was doing a course. She's doing a master's in
Hmm.
autism, actually. And she was saying, oh, since you put me on to ChatGPT, Mon, she said, I found myself arguing with it the other day. I just have to stop myself. You know, I'm having a conversation with an AI software thing. It's just funny. So yeah, but I think it has a real lot to offer the creative space in sparking ideas. And
Hmm.
I think we'll get to a point where we are looking for something created by a human.
Oh,
It'll
absolutely.
swing around like anything. It'll be, you know, there'll be a lot of flurry about it at the moment, which is happening, and there's a lot of development. And you know, every time sort of you look at, I follow a couple of different, you know, blogs and things on AI, and it
Yes,
changes literally every day. So, yeah, watch the space. I think
absolutely. I
not
love
going
that.
away. That's for sure.
Yeah. And any other hot tips that you think creatives could really benefit from, particularly in their business and in that
I
space?
think one of the things that I've noticed with creators more so than any other group is they need stimulation by looking at other creative works. So even as a singer, to go to an art gallery, as an artist, to go to a concert, to mix and mingle with other creatives, because the creators, you know, they're a breed.
Yeah.
they're gets back to this creative soul thing. So I think it's super important for creatives to actually, mix with other creators, to people who understand their language. It's like anything, I guess. You get a bunch of teachers together and they talk teacher speak, and you get a bunch of social workers together, they talk social work speak, and get coaches, they talk coachy speech.
That's it.
But creatives are, because it's a competitive market, there can be some sort of resistance to doing that. But once they get into some creative community and start to share their creativity and spark ideas, and I love the languaging of it, and yes, and what about, and blah, rather than but. I think that's a super way for creatives to grow their business, to grow their careers, to expand their creativity, to push their boundaries. I think it's a great thing for them to collaborate.
And I completely relate to that. So I categorize myself as a creative.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I know that going to concerts, going to galleries and all those types of things, you get this infusion of, I don't know, it's just like this inspiration. That's the word I was looking for. That wasn't coming to my tongue, but this inspiration. And, to see someone stand on stage and really just outpour everything that they have, and just the grit and determination to get up there and get out there and do it. Like, I think if you're in a bit of a slump and you do go to a concert or to a gallery or something like that, it just gives you that real hit.
Absolutely. Or read a great book, or see a fabulous movie, or just something where people have been working on something to create this magic. I think
it's really inspiring.
Wow, I can do that.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. And one of the things you just mentioned was being part of a group. And for our listeners, just to let them know, you also have created a free group on Facebook for creatives and business owners as well. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and how people can join? Yeah.
Thank you. It's called Creativity Unleashed with an exclamation mark.
Yep.
And tongue-in-cheek, it's the official creative group. So it's not a huge group, which is lovely because everyone in it wants to be there. And I don't think I've ever had to ban any comment or it's just not policed, inverted commas, because it's such a beautiful group. People are encouraging. We have Monday Marketplace where they're free to advertise whatever they want to and get support. We have posts around feedback on certain things. People post songs they've written, books they've written, illustrations that they've done, poetry. It's really lovely from that point of view. Again, there is a frustration because not everyone sees that stuff because of the algorithm that's at play.
Yes.
But if you look at your notifications and you become a member of the group and you looked at notifications or you popped into the group, you'll see that there's actually some really good content in there. And I offer sort of different guides and things like that. Like I've got a social media calendar, which people may not want to use it as a calendar, but it's got 360, whatever it is, ideas on what they might sort of post organically on social media to engage their followers and their fans and what have you. So there's some freebies, there's a few courses that are advertised now and again, but it really is very much a group of the community of creators, and I love the people in it, and I love being a part of it.
I love being part of it too. I've been part of it for the past couple of years as well. And as you said, it's a lovely environment, very open, very welcoming. And you also give people the opportunity to share their business and what they're doing, as you said, on Monday's Marketplace. So if you're interested, please jump on over. What I'm going to do is add all of Monica's links to the show notes, including where you can connect with her as well online. But thank you again, Mon, for saying yes to coming back for the Let's Get Visible podcast. I always love our chats and catching up with you. I can talk to you for hours and hours on end, but we're trying to keep this nice and concise for our listeners. But yeah, thank you very much, and look forward to, I'm sure, another future episode.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving this show a listen, and don't forget to leave your feedback and rating. If you want to learn more about me or my services, please jump on over to letsgetvisible.com.au, where you'll find show notes and links to my social media profiles so you can connect there as well. Okay, well, that's a wrap for another episode. So I'll join you next time on the Let's Get Visible podcast.